Hello there and good afternoon. My name's Don Arleth and you're watching News in Depth here on TVP World. Let's get started. Hungary's opposition Tisza party has released a 240-page election program over the weekend, highlighting the areas of focus should it win the April general elections. From a 1% wealth tax on the highest earners to reducing reliance on Russian energy by 2035 and unlocking billions of euro in frozen EU funds. The program's ambitious and intended to steer the country in a questionably different direction, should they take the reins from Viktor Orbán's Fidesz party. And now joining me to discuss how different a new government could be or not is Stuart Dowell, a political writer here at TVP World. Hello, Stuart, and thanks for joining us for this discussion.
Hi, good to be here.
All right, so before we get started, let's go ahead and listen to a quick soundbite of Péter Magyar talking about the upcoming, about his platform here.
From the first minute, the new government will deal with what it has been entrusted with, what is expected of it, and what is useful for the entire country.
All right, so Stuart, you have a piece coming out on our website coming up very soon. I was fortunate enough to have a sneak peek. So in this article you just wrote, you argue that Magyar can only defeat Orbán by inheriting Orbánism. Does this risk legitimizing the very system that he claims to want to reform?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Magyar's situation is that to defeat a monster, you have to become a monster. You have to take over the system that exists, and his program outline confirms it. There's been a lot of speculation and lack of clarity about exactly where Magyar stands on a lot of issues. So this document that came out at the end of last week, over the weekend, has really put the meat on the bone. So what we know now is that Tisza and Magyar are keeping all of Orbán's sacred cows, the things that are most important to Fidesz voters, and that means, for example, energy price caps for consumers. That means no to immigration. That means yes to continued payment of things like 13th and 14th pension payments and other family-related benefits linked to being married and having children.
Yeah, but these are all issues that are just, I would say they're important to Hungarian voters. You know, you're not going to take a 13th and 14th pension away from the retirement age people in Hungary, especially as low as these monthly payments are. So there has to be some kind of degree of keeping some of the former policies in place.
Yeah, sure, and but what is the reason why? It's because although Magyar and Tisza are ahead in the polls, but it depends on what polls you look at, and some polls he's ahead by even as much as 16% in independent polls. But that only refers to committed and decided voters. The real picture might be a bit shorter. So there's really a lot to play for, and what won't work for Tisza is doubling down and mobilising only the opposition. He has to also attract a significant proportion of the Fidesz support, and that's why he said on the clip, and the other things he said at that event was that he said to Fidesz voters, you're not wrong in your beliefs, your values, and what you want. What went wrong is Orbán and Fidesz and the management of Hungary, and that's essentially what Magyar is offering. He's offering Orbánism, but better managed, without the corruption.
Yeah, it seems like he has to enchant all of those Orbán voters and tell them why he's going to be different. So where do you see the red line between pragmatic mimicry, if you would, and ideological capture? Has Magyar already crossed this line?
Well, yes, because he's offering basically a form of Orbánism, and that's probably because of the reasons that I just mentioned, but also because we have to remember that Magyar came out of the Fidesz movement. His former wife was the former Justice Minister in Fidesz, in Orbán's government. He's known to be a centre-right politician, but we didn't know up to now what kind of centre-right politician he was. It was significant when there was a large LGBT march in Budapest last year that was really an anti-government protest. Magyar was careful not to attend. And not to associate him too much with the LGBT issues, but rather with the anti-government issues, and that kind of fits in with his line.
How much of this platform do you think are subject to change? I mean, it's one thing appealing to voters and actually winning the election, and it's a whole other thing when it comes to what you actually do when you're in office. We've seen this a million times in countries around the world, especially politicians making promises that they don't fulfill later on. Is it possible that Magyar could maybe not stick to these policies, this 240-page report that he released, this manifesto, if he does indeed become successful and win the elections?
Well, I think if Hungarian voters expect that the points set out in the manifesto are going to come into effect, for sure they're going to be disappointed, because Viktor Orbán has had 16 years to establish, to carry out a state capture, to protect the system from any eventual loss of power. He's designed it exactly for what's happening now. Let's not forget that he's had a supermajority in the Hungarian parliament, I think, since the start of his premiership in 2010, two-thirds of the Hungarian parliament, and what that means is that he's bundled in to the constitution many of the sacred cows that I mentioned, as well as a whole raft of other measures to protect the Orbán system from placing appointees in the courts, in the prosecution, the central bank, the audit office, all the state bodies, with appointees with terms from something like 9 to 12 years. Also, capture of the media. They have a media council. It's very difficult to change. Magyar has said at the weekend that he wants to switch off the public media because it broadcasts all of Orbán's propaganda, and eventually replace it. How he does that is tough because of this media council. There's even a budgetary council which has the power to stop a budget if it doesn't like it. It has Orbán appointed officials on there, and if a budget isn't appointed, then the president has the power to call an election. It's a system that doesn't exist anywhere else in Europe, as far as I'm aware. So Magyar, if he becomes a Prime Minister, it's almost like he's sitting in the driving seat of a car, but he can't use the steering wheel, he can't use the gearbox, he can't even turn the engine on. The only thing that will probably flash is the fuel gauge, because Hungary is running out of money.
Yeah. So okay. So then he's very limited into what he can do. Hence, that could be the reasoning behind this manifesto being so closely aligned to Fidesz. Yeah. I mean, he'll have to walk a very tight rope, and probably as long as he does that, then everything will be fine. But if not, then the whole political system could be gridlocked.
Yeah, sure. There'll be institutional frictions for the reasons that I just set out. That all of the institutions will be set against a Tisza government doing anything, particularly because Tisza and Magyar are almost certainly not likely to win the constitutional majority in the parliament. Not so much because of polling figures at the moment, because even the electoral system is is rigged. They have a split system of single mandate constituencies and a proportional representation system where the winners' excess votes get bundled into the proportional representation system. But the way it works in Hungary is that those excess votes will favour Fidesz because there'll be more of them from smaller rural constituencies. So Magyar needs even a very big polling majority even to win a small parliamentary majority.
Right, and that polling majority needs to stick. If we look at those last elections, like we talked about earlier before we came on, the elections in 2022 were quite disappointing. They were expecting a bigger turnout, a bigger victory by the opposition, maybe not taking out Viktor Orbán as the prime minister, but definitely they were hoping for more, and that didn't materialize, which leads to, well, which you can conclude that there's a problem with the polling there in Hungary. I'd like to move on now to something that Zoltán Tarsz from the Tisza party said for TVP World. Let's take a listen.
Russia is an important partner for Hungary, most of all because of our energy resources are mainly coming from Russia, meaning oil and gas. So for us, for the interest of the country, it is very important to have a balanced and pragmatic relationship with Russia. It is important for the sake of the people. We think that the current government is not doing it with the same approach. They are pleasing Putin and his regime a bit more than they should, and this is something which cannot be tolerated if we are a member of the EU as we are, and also as we are a member of the NATO as we are. Hungary belongs to Europe. Hungary does not belong to Russia, and our history has taught us that. We would like to diversify. There is already a growing amount of renewable energy within the Hungarian energy mix, and we would like to propose to even further develop it. There are other areas where we can make some major developments, for example, geothermal energy. And also we have to diversify our resources for gas and oil, and we will be able to do that. There are other countries which are willing to sell and already ready to sell gas and oil for Hungary, and there are already infrastructure at place which is available so that we can use that. So I think we have to be very careful, of course, because the energy is very important in every country and is very important in Hungary as well. But we are sure that we can loosen our dependence on Russian fossil energy very much.
Okay, so those are very long explanation with a little bit of nuance, if you will. So energy. Magyar does not want to cut off Russian energy, oil and gas right away, but phase it out until 2035. What is he banking on here in this move?
Well, he's over the weekend, I've seen a lot of commentary online among analysts, journalists, very excited about the fact that Tisza have declared that they're going to withdraw from Russian energy, but they've given themselves the deadline of 2035, which is 10 years away. The European Union have set their deadline of next year, next autumn. What that means is Hungary has a 4-year parliamentary term. That means that they're counting on their party winning 3 general elections before they actually have to do anything. Basically, they're saying they're not going to do anything. 10 years down the line is an unpredictable future. They want to. What they're offering their voters is
there's no radical change on.
No radical change. They want to keep the energy price cap for consumers. Very popular and important thing that they've got there, and that relies on imports of Russian gas, and they're going to try and keep doing that for the next 3 parliamentary terms.
Well, hopefully that's more of a promise, just not to kind of scare the electorate, and maybe something that progress will be made. Definitely not bound to by anything if they should they win the elections. Russia's building a nuclear power plant, the PAX-2, which is supposed to supply Hungary with 70% of the country's electricity. Any changes on that front that we're hearing from Magyar, or this project will just sail smoothly ahead?
Well, one thing that they've mentioned about PAX-2 is that they'll investigate elements of it in terms of corruption, because this is an area that's involved that brings with it lots of public tenders, lots of public money. So for sure, it's one of those things that they want to look at, as well as other. There are all sorts of projects in Hungary, these large trophy projects, stadiums in small and medium-sized towns that are alleged to involve corruption. And that's one thing that they want to do. It will be difficult for them to bring any prosecutions and sentences because of the control of the prosecutor. But one thing that it brings us onto is the rule of law issue and Europe. Maybe you want to talk about that a little bit. Yeah. The one thing that Magyar has promised is that Hungary will join the European Public Prosecution Organisation and or service, and that's an important step for the European Commission, because it's one of the rule of law kind of benchmarks that Europe expects, and it's going to be one of it's something that Magyar can do, and it's a way that he wants to unlock what's estimated to be over 20 billion euros in blocked cohesion and recovery funds from the European Union. It's blocked now. Of course, they want to get that money tap running, and that's going to pay for a lot of the things that Magyar has promised, because he's promised, of course, like any opposition party hoping to gain power, he's promised to cut taxes, increase welfare spending, increase spending in education, health, and other types of infrastructure projects. But how is he going to pay for all of that? Well, probably partly from the 20 billion.
Yeah, so we'll need the 20 billion. Well, in strengthening those, well, let's just say EU ties for the moment, even with, say he has a slim parliamentary majority, how will that be complicated by the system that has been put in place by Viktor Orbán, this captured state that you mentioned?
How will it be complicated? To a very great extent, because Tisza will be in government, but largely unable to govern because of all the things that we've talked about, particularly. We mentioned things like the Media Council, the Budgetary Council, the putting some of the sacred cows into the Constitution, but they even have things like these foundations that control the universities and cultural organisations, with boards of trustees that are obviously Fidesz appointed, but some of the members are appointed for life. So, you know, even if Tisza win the three parliamentary elections that we talked about, there seems to be no end to Orbanism in Hungary.
What about NATO ties? We need vastly increased defense spending, and then, of course, nobody in Hungary wants to put more money into NATO if they're countering Russia. How are we going to? How would Péter Magyar maneuver around that?
Well, he's in line with the other elements of his manifesto. He's expressed scepticism towards early Ukraine joining of the EU. That kind of means that he wants to kick the can down the road, doesn't want to deal with it now. On Russia, he's sending mixed signals. His nomination for Foreign Minister, Anita Orbán, not a relative, just Orbán's a popular name in Hungary, has credentials of being sceptical and anti-Russia, but has signalled since her nomination that she wants dialogue with Russia and Putin. So mixed signals there.
All right, well, we've got about a month to go till these elections take place. It's just definitely going to be an interesting one to watch, and I think many people here in this region and in Europe as a whole are waiting to see what results this really brings. Stuart Dowell, our political writer at TVP World, thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that concludes this edition of News in Depth. Thanks for joining us, and stay with us for more here on TVP World.